The latest exchange of attacks between the United States and Iran has raised tensions across the Gulf region. Iran has launched multiple missiles towards Bahrain and Kuwait. These are the images released by the IRGC of the operation. Iranian media reported that the targets included the Ali Al Salem Air Base in Kuwait, which hosts U.S. forces, and the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. The attacks triggered security alerts across both countries. Now these are the images released by the Kuwaiti authorities. It shows air defense systems intercepting Iranian drones and missiles. Kuwait's army says it engaged 7 Iranian missiles, causing only minor material damage and no casualties. Bahrain also activated air raid sirens as explosions were heard in several areas. Bahrain says it intercepted 3 missiles and several drones coming from Iran. Both the countries have described the attacks as a blatant act of aggression. Kuwait has condemned the strikes as a violation of its sovereignty and warned that they represented a dangerous escalation. The strikes came hours after U.S. forces shot down 4 Iranian attack drones headed towards the Strait of Hormuz. CENTCOM say the drones posed a threat to maritime traffic in that region. In response, U.S. forces later struck Iranian radar sites in Goruk and on the Keshem Island. In response, Iran's foreign ministry says America will be responsible for any consequences of its actions and any further escalation. The ministry says that repeated ceasefire violations demonstrate the U.S. has no intention of reducing tensions. On Friday, President Trump said he expected the war to end quickly. Speaking at a campaign in Wisconsin, Trump said the United States would emerge from the war very quickly and argued that energy prices would stabilize.
We're at a point, we're going to come out of Iran very quickly, and it's going to be very strong, one way or the other, whether it's a piece of paper or the very tough way, okay? The very tough way is maybe the easier way, but we're going to come out and your fertilizer prices are going to go way down, just like they were 4 months ago.
Separately, in an interview to NBC, the president said that Iran has still 21 to 22% of its missiles left, adding that it's a lot of missiles.
They have some missiles, they have some drones. I would say percentage-wise, maybe 21, 22% of their missiles. It's a lot of missiles, but it's not what it was when we first attacked.
So you're saying they have 21, 22% of their missiles left?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
The fighting has strained efforts to preserve a fragile ceasefire and complicated negotiations aimed at securing a longer-term agreement. The war has increased pressure on the White House as markets remain unsettled and domestic criticism grows ahead of the midterm polls. For weeks, U.S. and Iranian negotiators have been trying to extend the ceasefire and restart talks on Iran's nuclear program. However, both sides continue to push for changes to the proposed deal with little sign of a breakthrough.
On Saturday, Kuwait and Bahrain said that Iran had launched ballistic missiles as well as drones towards them. Most, they said, were intercepted. Now, Kuwait called this a serious escalation and said that Iran was violating its sovereignty. Their comments came just hours after the U.S. military said that it had shot down Iranian missiles as well as drones that were headed towards the Strait of Hormuz as well as to its Gulf allies while it was striking targets in Iran. Now, this exchange of fire is just the latest in this tenuous ceasefire. The Trump administration is pushing Iran to accept a deal. Negotiators said about a week ago that there was a tentative deal in place that would have extended the ceasefire by 60 days and launch new talks on the nuclear program. However, President Trump has said that he wants unspecified changes. Iran, however, has not publicly said whether they will be on board with that.
Professor James A. Russell is an emeritus professor at the Naval Postgraduate School. He's now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Professor, thank you very much for your time and welcome to the broadcast. I'll begin by asking you 2 very quick questions. First of all, why is it so hard for the president to acknowledge victory in Iran? And the second one, why is Iran targeting small, vulnerable countries like Kuwait and Bahrain?
Trump cannot bring himself to acknowledge that the United States has lost this war. And the United States continues to launch these strategically irrelevant strikes. There's no political purpose to be achieved by continuing to target Iran's radars or Iran's drone factories. There's no overarching political objective that can be achieved by the United States through the continued use of force, which only, of course, threatens and leads to, as we are seeing, as you've covered in your report, escalation. Now, what I would say is that the second question leads into my first answer here, which is that if the United States is launching strategically irrelevant tactical and operational strikes, the same is not true for Iran. Throughout the war, Iran has demonstrated that it has a clear understanding that force and the role of force is to create political effect. So by attacking the Gulf states as it has done, they are demonstrating that this war is in pursuit of a broader political and strategic objective, which for Iran is to undermine the American position in the Gulf, right? Which in the American case, it's based on these assurances of protection of the Gulf states, forward militarily deployed forces, and so on and so forth. And Iran, in this response to the latest American attacks, is demonstrating once again that one of its central strategic objectives is to weaken the American position in the Gulf. And I would say that over the course of time, they've been pretty successful at that.
Professor,
so we have again.
Professor, let me ask you this then, since we're talking about the latest attacks by America. Both sides have stated that each one is breaking or breaching the ceasefire. What do you think is happening behind the fence or behind the lines?
You mean politically and diplomatically? Is
Both.
that what you're referring?
Both.
Both. Yeah. So what I would say is that, so let's start with the American case. The American case is the United States is attempting to restock its ammunition supplies, which have been significantly depleted in the war. But the problem is with the American arsenal of munitions, of course, is that these munitions can't be easily replaced. These are very expensive. They take a long time. There was recently a news report, for example, that the Japanese who have ordered, a bunch of cruise missiles from the United States are not going to be seeing those cruise missiles anytime soon because the arsenal has been depleted. That's just one example. In the case of Iran, it is again using this period to restock and refit, and its tasks in this regard, it seems to me at least, I don't have access obviously to intelligence reports or anything like that, but it's easy for them to regenerate their drones, for example, and even their missiles. These are indigenously produced systems. So both countries are seeking to restock. And one of the sort of flaws or one of the problems that is faced in the current political circumstance is that neither side is dealing with each other directly. We're going through intermediaries, the Pakistanis, for example, and thankfully they've taken this on and have done an absolutely outstanding job. But it's better if the United States and Iran deals with each other directly. I think the primary stumbling block here in the United States is President Trump and his disinterest in admitting defeat. He's been promising the United States taxpayers for the last 3 months, virtually since the war started, that it was going to be over. He referred to it initially as an excursion. And yet here we sit 3 months later, and it's within his capacity to simply sign this agreement that essentially restores shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, pushes off the issue of discussions around the nuclear program, and gets the United States and Iran back in a more sort of stable relationship.
Professor Russell, we'll have to end it there. Thank you very much for your time and for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me, as always.